Ukrainian forces have eliminated a unit from Russia's elite Sumy Special Purpose Center in the Sumy region. The report comes from military correspondent Andriy Saplienko. According to his information, a group from the 3rd Directorate of the Sumy Center had been operating in the Kharkiv, Sumy, and Chernihiv regions, carrying out raids against civilians and Ukrainian troops. However, the unit soon faced a harsh response. Fighters from the State Border Guard Service's Dozer Special Unit, together with the soldiers of the 105th Territorial Defense Brigade, crushed the enemy group and eliminated its commander. Enemy losses amounted to 6 killed and 8 wounded. The names and call signs of the Russian Special Forces operatives have been identified. Teacher, the commander; Jambule, Varus, Hriha, Voron, Harley, Filin, Armen, Fakir, Hacker, Henry, and Krust. Russian telegram channels report that in early October, the commander of the Sever grouping of forces, General Nikiforov, assigned the group a mission to carry out reconnaissance and sabotage operations in the Sumy region, advancing from the area near the settlement of Poroz. However, during the execution of their combat mission, the group walked into a well-organized ambush and was destroyed. It is worth noting that a year ago, fighters from the Chernihiv resistance movement eliminated a group of Russian Special Forces officers from the Sumy unit. At that time, Sumy soldiers were ambushed while carrying out a sabotage and reconnaissance mission involving the mining of Ukrainian territory. The Sumy Center is one of the most professional units within the Russian Special Operations Forces. Special Forces operatives from the center have conducted operations in the Caucasus, the Middle East, Africa, as well as during the occupation of Crimea and the full-scale Russian-Ukrainian war. The permanent deployment point is located in Solnechnogorsk, the Moscow region, on the territory of Military Unit 92,154. Ukrainian forces destroyed a Tu-S5 Giatsent-S self-propelled gun on the Kinburn Spit that was terrorizing the Mykolaiv region. The Tu-S5 Giatsent-S is a Soviet-made 152mm self-propelled gun designed in the 1970s to deliver long-range, heavy firepower against fortified positions and enemy artillery. In the war in Ukraine, this system has regained importance on both sides of the front. With a firing range of up to 28 kilometers using standard shells, and over 35 with rocket-assisted rounds, the Giatsent-S is used to strike deep targets such as command posts, supply depots, and troop concentrations. Russia employs the Giatsent-S for continuous artillery barrages, often in coordination with drones for target correction, turning it into a key component of their artillery wall tactics in Donetsk and Luhansk. Ukraine, on the other hand, operates captured units and uses them to counter Russian batteries, taking advantage of the gun's accuracy and range to engage enemy positions from safer distances. Despite its age, the Giatsent-S remains a powerful tool in static, attrition-heavy warfare, a weapon symbolizing how both armies rely on Soviet-era firepower to sustain modern combat. The Russian army's notorious meat assaults are ultimately the fault of training establishments sending unprepared soldiers to the front line, according to an interesting, though not entirely persuasive commentary by a serving Russian soldier. No Retouching writes, "I want to discuss with you the so-called meat assaults. What constitutes a meat assault, and what doesn't? So, let's begin. Most likely, most people believe that a meat assault is when a commander sends in his personnel without providing them with any cover and without first destroying all enemy positions. But I can tell you, as a participant in the special military operation from its very beginning and to this day, that destroying all enemy positions, or even most of them, before our infantry advances is impossible. No matter how many FABS, aerial bombs we throw at them, it doesn't have the effect people think it does. As for grads, mortars, and howitzers, those who have dealt with them understand that out of 8 to 10 shells fired, at most half will hit the target, although in reality, even fewer. The FPV drone and all other UAVs also play a very important role. But again, drones can't kill every enemy soldier. It's much easier to destroy equipment or anything else with them. There aren't enough drones for every soldier, and the speed at which they can be delivered to their positions can't be very high. The FPV crews are stationed just a couple of kilometers behind the forward positions, and they are carried by the soldiers of the same crews. Therefore, no matter how much we hammer the enemy and their strongholds, when the infantry advances, losses are absolutely inevitable. Regarding personnel training, an assault is also called a meat assault, when soldiers who are completely unprepared go into battle. Everyone starts blaming the unit commanders and doesn't fully understand what's going on. A soldier arriving at a unit after signing a contract should have already completed a training course and only then be sent to a combat zone. But, this almost never happens, and it's the recruiting stations that send completely unprepared soldiers to their units. This is resolved locally by regiment and battalion commanders who set up their own training grounds. But because of the deception of those sending these reinforcements, when the personnel arrive and there's no time to train them, what's happening is happening. And we've already discussed the issue of deception in the form of job assignments, which are handled by the military recruitment office on the spot, and have no influence on the soldier's specialism, i.e., drone operators being assigned to infantry. The bottom line is that even the provision of communications equipment and personal protective equipment is lacking only because for years the highest offices of the Ministry of Defense were occupied by those now behind bars. And the unit commanders are not to blame for most of the actions commonly referred to as meat assaults. Important! I'm not trying to whitewash anyone's reputation or say anything that isn't true. I'm only telling you what I've seen myself over the years of my service. The author isn't wrong that unprepared soldiers are a common feature of assaults. Throughout the war in Ukraine, soldiers' accounts have described how many new recruits are given only a few days of cursory training before being shoved onto the front lines. However, it's clear that even with proper training, large numbers of Russians are being expended as a deliberate military tactic to wear down the defenders. Some commanders are said to have even boasted that losses don't matter because they can always get replacements. The Russian meat assault is therefore a brutal but rational tactic, intended to provide quick results for an impatient high command, regardless of the cost in human lives. The willingness of local commanders to order them simply reflects the attitude of senior leaders. Russian State Duma Speaker Vyacheslav Volodin called Biden, Macron, and Merz mold that will perish when the rays of light from our country reach them. Another unhinged rant from Moscow's political elite.
More than 30,000 sanctions. Look at how eagerly some heads of state watch how we will overcome them. Biden literally ruined himself. Ultă bumerang zito, higa kuma zi launched, Giona Dicia, expecting our country's economy to be torn to shreds, hit him right in the forehead. They didn't tear it apart. Now Macron has taken this slippery path. Our response should be true economic growth, maintaining and increasing social standards. And there will be fewer people like Biden, Macron, Merkel in the world. Because this mold will perish when the rays of light from our country reach them. Let's work in such a way that everything they see leads to their quicker retreat and exit from politics. Because the world will be better if they leave.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you want to support Warthog Defense, please become our member and get early access to new videos, exclusive members-only videos, and become administrator in comment section. The membership link is in the description.
Rescues every day. We had a guy last week at 6 rescues in 6 days. You know, he's doing the job every day.